bottles of baby oil?
I don't think it was 1,000. I think it was a lot. I mean, there's a Costco right down the street. You know, I think Americans buy in bulk, as we know. Just consensual adults doing what consensual adults do.
Yo, check this out. Diddy just got arrested, and it turns out one of his iconic lyrics might be way more literal than anyone thought. Imagine finding 1,000 bottles of baby oil in his house, like enough to fill a whole aquarium. What's the deal with all that lube? And will this baby oil get him all the trouble? Now, before we get into it, imagine Diddy, the man behind some of the biggest hits in hip-hop, getting busted by the feds and the jaw-dropping stuff they found in his crib. We're talking about a stash of 1,000 bottles of lubricant. Yeah, you heard that right, 1,000. Now, think about this. Each bottle holds 12 fluid ounces, and when you add that all up, it's almost enough to fill a 100-gallon fish tank. Just picture that for a second. Seriously, why does a music giant need enough lube to set up a mini water park? It's a real head-scratcher. If you break it down, those 1,000 bottles equal about 93 gallons of lube. Alright, so here's where things get even crazier. When Diddy's house was searched and they found all these bottles of lubricant and baby oil, his lawyer came in with a defense that has everyone talking. Apparently, the explanation was that Americans buy in bulk, and there's a Costco just down the street. Yeah, that was the official response from Diddy's legal team. Now, sure, we all know Americans love to hit up Costco for those bulk deals, but even the most hardcore Costco fan doesn't need that much lube. It's not exactly the kind of thing people stockpile like paper towels or cereal. Just think about that for a second. 1,000 bottles. It's like Diddy was preparing for some extreme party that will last for weeks, not just a regular weekend get-together. This isn't your typical shopping list, and using the whole bulk buying excuse isn't convincing anyone. The sheer amount of lube found is making people wonder what was really going on in those freak-off parties, and this excuse isn't helping Diddy's case at all. I mean, Costco is great and all, but this explanation, let's just say people aren't buying it. Now let's dive into what all of this means. The revelation of Diddy's freak-off parties is just the tip of a massive iceberg. Alongside these wild parties are some pretty shocking allegations. In 2023, Diddy, aka Sean John Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka the infamous Lube Daddy, found himself in some deep water with accusations flying left and right. The allegations centered around his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who was just 19 when they first got together. Diddy was 37, and it didn't take long for Cassie to find herself financially and career-wise dependent on him. At these bizarre freak-off parties, it's alleged that Diddy forced Cassie to do things she clearly didn't want to. That's a huge deal. This case ended up being settled outside of court, but we can all guess it included a hefty payout. And speaking of payouts, there's also that incident with Kid Cudi. Diddy reportedly blew up Cudi's car after he found out Cudi was dating Cassie, but Cassie's lawsuit was just the tip of the iceberg. Puff Daddy, the lube master, was already dealing with several other cases for similar behavior, and guess what? The infamous freak-off parties were front and center in these allegations. The crazy part? Getting the real scoop on what went down at these parties is like pulling teeth. With legal teams involved and reputations on the line, most attendees are tight-lipped. But when there are literally 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil involved, it's not hard to picture what might have happened. Let's be real, with that much lubricant on hand, Diddy and his crew weren't exactly hosting a book club. There have been some leaks that suggest the scene was anything but wholesome. Imagine a wild night filled with questionable activities and questionable people. The rumors swirling around these parties point to an atmosphere that was more chaotic than classy. guests reportedly indulged in all sorts of debauchery, leading to a sordid reputation that's hard to shake off. There's a lot of legal talk going on, but the main thing here is Diddy loves throwing these wild parties. Even if the people involved want to keep things quiet, the number of allegations shows that it isn't just a one-time deal. It seems like these parties are a regular part of his life. Allegedly, these so-called freak-off parties were like multi-day marathons filled with some seriously wild stuff. Diddy would fly in specifically for these extravagant events. That particular allegation isn't just a rumor. It holds some weight because he's facing some serious charges related to trafficking across state lines under the notorious Mann Act. These parties seem to have a pretty wild setup. After his high-profile white parties, which would attract the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio and Mariah Carey, Diddy would switch gears entirely. The A-listers would head home, and then he'd roll out the red carpet for a select group of friends to experience a different kind of shindig. Michael Kaplan from the New York Post was one of the first to report on these freaky gatherings, shedding light on how Diddy allegedly operated. According to the report, Diddy would invite women he was managing or those he had met at various adult clubs. It's been said that he'd also bring in workers to ensure things got really out of hand. Diddy had a knack for using his influence to manipulate the situation. Allegedly, he would use drugs, money, or his power over these women's careers to pressure them into participating in the festivities, making it tough for them to say no. But it doesn't stop there. Once the parties wrapped up, things would take a dark turn. To ensure silence from those who attended, he reportedly had a disturbing tactic, using video footage captured during these events as a means of blackmail. Imagine being in a situation where the person throwing the party has something on you that could ruin your career if you speak out. That's the kind of pressure Diddy supposedly exerted, keeping those involved quiet through threats or intimidation. Also, the freak-off parties have their own shocking twists. A drug dealer who attended one of these events shared that male rappers were also getting involved with each other, including some big names that haven't been mentioned publicly yet. Heavy security was put in place to keep things hush-hush, and only those personally invited by Diddy could get in. There were threats of violence, drug addiction, and blackmail to keep everyone quiet, plus some payouts for individuals like Cassie to maintain their silence. No footage or photos have been released from these parties, though some media outlets have been using old clips or images from Diddy's legitimate white parties as clickbait. Rumors have floated around suggesting that celebrities like Kevin Hart, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Beyoncé attended these infamous parties. But let's be real, those claims are pretty shaky, mainly relying on photos and videos of them at legitimate white parties. As of now, Diddy is sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Center after being labeled a flight risk. Back in March, when federal raids were happening at his homes, he made a quick getaway to Antigua in his private plane. After a little reflection, he decided to come back, but then his bail requests were denied. When it came to the surprising discovery of 1,000 bottles of lubricant at one of his places, Diddy, through his lawyer, tried to downplay it, saying that having over 90 gallons of lube and baby oil wasn't as suspicious as it sounds. Because, really, who doesn't have an aquarium-sized stash of personal lubricant for various needs at home? It's a wild defense, but it shows just how deep the rabbit hole goes in this crazy story. Combs is looking at some serious jail time, with the charges piling up against him, and while the juicy details of those freak-off parties are being kept on lock by federal prosecutors, the stakes are high. At the very least, he's staring down a 15-year prison sentence. But if those federal trafficking charges stick, he could be facing life behind bars and a hefty fine of up to $250,000. This whole situation really shows a disturbing side of how Diddy might have been running these gatherings. Throwing a party for friends is one thing, but when the allegations suggest he was manipulating vulnerable people and using their situations against them, it makes you seriously question his character and intentions. It seems like many are trying to keep the details quiet, but the number of accusations suggests that these wild parties weren't just one-time events. Now, what do you think? Do drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll be back soon. See you again.